Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Harold Muliati, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Blanchard. How are you doing, Jeff?
Good, thank you, Harold. Nice to see you. So we've got a lot to talk about today, hopefully. Anyway,
Yeah.
easy.
We're going to talk a little bit about stock video and some cameras. Let's get going.
This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation. Digital learning development, media development, corporate video, management consulting, and more. Visit us at www.relate.com. Thanks.
And we're back. So Jeff and I were talking a little bit... Jeff and I were talking a little bit about Storyblocks and some of the other different, well, they used to be called video blocks, and some of the other stock video sites, how they've changed and sort of the state of what's competitive.
I've gone a bit fuzzy at the moment, Harold, so I don't know what's happening with me.
I think your camera needs glasses, Jeff.
It's just gone out of focus. It just doesn't want to focus at the moment. So, I don't know why it's doing that, but it just doesn't want to focus.
So, there you go.
No, still not. Yeah. No. It's gone even worse now. So, flick off to yourself and talk to
Rick and I were trying to figure out what stock video service we wanted to go with, because we've been doing more stuff where we need intros for training pieces and that kind of thing, where we need a good amount of stock video, a good selection of stock video. And the initial thing we were looking at was Artgrid, which is if you're familiar with Artlist, which has stock music, Artgrid is their video equivalent. It's by the same company, and they offer stock video. However, we decided to compare that with Storyblocks, which we used to subscribe to back when it was called Video Blocks. However, if you've used Video Blocks, you might remember this. At some point, they introduced their member library, and this meant Video Blocks added a lot of different stock videos to their collection. But to use any of these new ones, you needed to pay an additional, depending on the video, $100 to $150 per video to license it. And what you would have to do is you would have to look for things that were in their member library in order to be able to actually use them without paying extra. You would have to look for this little icon here. It's a little infinity icon, and you would put in a search term for a video, and what would happen is you'd find tons of videos that would work for what you wanted, but only a few of them had the little icon over here, and those were usually not the best videos. So what we were feeling at the time, this was a couple of years ago when we had Video Blocks, was you were essentially paying for a subscription to be advertised to, because you couldn't use the stuff you really wanted to use anyway. And
sorry, I'm still not here, Harold. I'm just having trouble focusing in now. I'm just a big blare at the moment, but I can still hear. I can still respond, though, so just don't put me up until I figure it out.
I'm going to reiterate that Jeff's camera, I think, needs spectacles at this point. But with Video Blocks, that whole member library thing, I think it caused a lot of people to unsubscribe from them, because I read a recent article from they're now called Storyblocks, and basically they said fewer than 5% of their members ever bought any of those member library ones, because they were already paying for the subscription. They didn't want to pay more. So we were looking at Artgrid because of this, because we were thinking Video Blocks wasn't that great. And one of the issues that we found with Artgrid, however, was that a lot of the videos looked pretty good. They had some varying quality, but they had some pretty good quality stuff. However, it's all in 25p. It's all PAL, and we always produce our stuff at 30p or occasionally 60p. So this introduces a bit of a problem. In general, not too much of a problem, but
I'm back.
occasionally, having that mismatch and where your frames don't quite divide into each other that well, it can cause frame skips. It can cause a frame to show twice when it shouldn't. That sort of thing. So
It's like what we were saying in the pre-show, that it's strange that they don't do it in an NTSC format rather than just do it in the PAL in the 25 frames, because I'm used to that being in an area where it's 25 frames in the PAL area. But still, if I was doing a stock thing, I would do the majority of it for NTSC, because that's probably one of the biggest markets that would be out there for that.
yeah, and I suppose, actually, now that I think of it, if you're in a PAL region, you might have the inverse problem with Storyblocks, because Storyblocks stuff, I think it's all offered at 29.97p, so NTSC. So if you need 25p, you might actually look at Artgrid. Also, the plans that we were comparing, Storyblocks ended up being cheaper because Artgrid, they have their basic subscription at $200 per year, I believe, US.
$299, I think it is.
Yeah, that might be, well. So yeah, you're right. Actually, it's $299, but that only lets you get HD MP4s, which is good for most things. But what we were really looking at was the one that was, I think, $459 or something, which was the one that allows you to get up to 4K videos.
All right.
Yeah, and we were comparing that to Storyblocks, which allows you to get for video, you can subscribe to video only, because Storyblocks has other stuff too. But if you subscribe to video only, you get unlimited downloads of their up to 4K videos for $199 US a year. So it was already quite a bit cheaper, and they also have their video plus music and images package, which is $349 per year, and it gives you essentially what used to be audio blocks and video blocks, and they also have stock images now too.
It gets a bit confusing, because I know I've used the video blocks, and I was very, very pleased with the what I got out of it at the time. Because when I started with it, the standard one used to have the video, but you also had a bit of audio in there as well. They weren't the best out of the best ever audio things, but there were enough to get you by if you just wanted, like me, I didn't need anything fantastic. It was good enough to get you by. But then they sort of broke that off, and then they had audio blocks, which went to, so it had a separate subscription for about the same price. But what got me into it was, years ago, it used to cost, it was $500 or $600, $700 a year to get these stock sites, and then all of a sudden, video blocks went to $99.
Yeah,
for all these.
I think they started in 2009 or something. Was it around that time?
That could be about. And then it was somebody like me who said, "Oh, $99. I can afford. That's good. I'll give that one a try." Where I would have never bothered before, and then it sort of slowly creeped up. But I can understand, as they improved their service and gave more things with that, and then the quality of the sound on the audio blocks improved when you got the extra ones, and now they're concentrating on video more, because let's face it, video is probably one of the biggest things. I think it's taking more than the photo stock sites these days, because and there's more opportunities for people like me as well, I suppose, to go out there filming things for these sites and that.
Yeah, and the other thing, as video, the standard for video resolutions and stuff like that becomes higher, you can even do stuff like get stock videos and take one frame from it and use it as a stock image. If you're displaying something on web or in a video, then that'll be perfectly fine most of the time if it looks good.
And yeah, a lot of the editing software, it amazes me. Some pictures I put up, the best photos I put up weren't actually photos. I've taken still shot off a video, And I thought, gee, that looks really good. And you can do some really good shots out of off a video, whereas people don't realize that all it takes is for a second for something body to stand still or something. You can get that frame. And with computers these days, they hold that so steady, you can just get such a nice shot out of that. So it does the best of both worlds.
Exactly. And I mean, if you think about it, once we get to 8K being the standard for like stock video and stuff like that, which will be a while, admittedly, but once we get to like 8K, then that's going to be, pretty much like one of the high resolution camera. Every frame's going to be like a picture from one of the high resolution cameras, like the 5DSR or the A7R series, that sort of thing. It's just a little bit mind-boggling in that respect.
What was we saying last week about pray and spray with a camera? Well, people do that. They take 10,000 shots to get one shot. Well, why bother? Why don't you just video it all?
Yeah, I mean,
and then because then at least you've just got one file you can flick through rather than 15,000 little ones, and you just flick. Oh, that looks nice, and you find an area and just go into that and get that frame off. Because that's what you're doing if you're just spraying everything. Well, why don't you just bite the bullet and video it?
Well, and I guess, currently, because we tend to have our videos somewhat more on the compressed side, that is a limitation if you're going to do like post-processing and stuff like that. But I do think that eventually that is going to be what a lot of people will start doing, is basically just taking a video if maybe it's in some sort of RAW format or something already, and then you just have.
And instead, those people who really just need the proper camera quality of that, the amount of them out there that's going to sell their images, that's going to go on to a 50 by 50 foot billboard and all, that's very far and few between. Probably 90% of what goes out there wants to be on a format like this. And you can spend all that time, get that huge image, that best quality, but people won't see that. You have to sort of put it down to put it on most sites and to make it web friendly. You don't want it to be too big out there. So, and I'm amazed at how you can get something like a 50 megabyte image and you can get it down to 1 megabyte. And when you say, gee, that still looks good or something, when you upload, you think, why would I bother putting it up on the bigger image on that? Because when you're looking at it on the screen, but it's when you take it off the screen where that different makes a difference to you.
I think that's a pretty good point, because what I'm seeing is a lot of the gains that we're getting technology-wise in, getting images that are higher resolution and more detail and stuff like that. I think the benefit is actually probably more for editing rather than the end product. Like, if you're just gonna take a picture and you pretty much have taken a good picture and you're just gonna put it right up where you're gonna put it, you don't need that much resolution. You don't need that much detail. But
and it's funny when people take those big shots. I've got all this image, they get all that in, and they go in and process it and give it a grungy, lesser light look, so it makes it look like an inferior quality. So because some people, you don't want it as sharp, they dumb it down. So sometimes a lesser quality, hey, you're halfway there. If you want more natural.
That is true. I mean, and there really is something to that, because I actually see a lot of professional portraits and stuff where, I look at it and they processed it in such a way, or rather maybe didn't process it in such a way that they left in too much skin detail and stuff like that. So you can see all the little skin tone variations and stuff like that make people look like they've got some kind of weird skin condition. And the thing is, while you can say, yes, as a photographer, you could say, I took that picture, that is really what it looked like, it captured reality. I would tend to say, is that really true? Because you're not, I would say cameras tend to show probably more than we really pick up with our eyes when we're just looking at a person. Your brain abbreviates a lot of things. Like we're not, hyper aware of every small hair follicle on someone's face when we're looking at them. We're mostly paying attention to their eyes, their nose, and their mouth, kind of thing.
Well, I think somebody said to me once before, I think this has said, the brain fools you, because if you looked in the mirror and saw exactly what was there, you'd be frightened all the time. He said, but you always look at yourself. You don't see the bad things, but everybody else can. He said, your brain fool you. He said, because you just probably couldn't take it every day if you wanted to see that, when you're getting older and all the things, because people do that. But as I said, the brain, you think it's the right color, but that's why you need these devices to say that, because I always think you don't know what other people are seeing, because I always think, well, when they say you're seeing red, you don't know, because they said you've always been told that's red.
Yeah.
You think that I say it's red, but it might be, your perception might be different. I don't know.
And really, sometimes people find out when they're already adults that they're actually colorblind and can't sense certain colors that they thought they were seeing the whole time. Well, they realize people are comparing two colors to them, and they think, wait, that's the same color.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend, an old gentleman I knew, who bought a nice Jaguar car, and he thought it was the best car he'd ever got. It was bright yellow with purple leather seats. But to him, it was he said, well, it looks fine to me. And I thought, well, that was him buying it. But he said he sees it totally different. It was really attractive to him, but he didn't see it the same way as other people did. But with photography, I'm one same thing is I adjust it to do it to be to natural. And like a lot of the images people get out there, they just don't look like people anymore. I've seen others that say there's just something not right about them. It looks slightly, slightly off from being a human when they do things. So. Yeah.
And speaking of the really high resolution and detail pictures, actually, Sony just released their A7R IV, which is the successor to the A7R Mark III, and the A7R Mark III had 42 megapixels, I believe, and A7R Mark IV has 61. So that's quite a bump up in resolution. But as always, with the higher and higher resolutions being pulled out of sensors, it kind of ends up begging the question: how much more does this really buy you? And actually, Tony Northrup did a pretty interesting video recently, and I'll link it below, where he compared the recent Canon EOS R5 against the A7R Mark IV, and he was showing side by sides of using essentially the same lens when you blow up the image so that the subject is the same size and so on. The R5 it was looking better, you could resolve detail a little better looking at it, even though it was lower resolution. So just having a higher pixel count doesn't always, I guess that's the thing. It's we always have to be careful when it comes to specs, and
that's one thing though. I mean, let's face it, if you were in the market for a camera and you've got the Sony A7R Mark II, or was Mark III or whatever, with the 42 megapixel sensor, and the new one came out and it had 42 megapixels, you say, oh, I don't want that. If it's got 62, might not be anything really, but it's got 62, I'll go for that. It's an improvement. And I think that's what's driven the market as well. Yes, it's maybe better for some places, and most of the time you might not need it, but why will I bother getting something if it hasn't got something better? And
that is true. And I guess you're right, because for example, if it had exactly the same number of megapixels, but they said something at base ISO it has less noise, but it wasn't necessarily something they could quantify on a specs sheet, then that might not sell as well, right?
And we're all in that market where no matter how much you say it, I can come to you and say, oh, mine's got 62 megapixels. What's yours got? Oh, 42. Yeah. It's just mine's better than you. It doesn't matter whether it is or not. I think we've got to get out, when you really look at things objectively, you've got to get out of specs, because like you said, yes, the higher the specs, but I always used to use in audio terms when they said, this one's got a louder rating than that one. Mm-hmm. I said, yes, a train's horn it's got a huge sound. I said, but it's not pleasant to listen to, is it? It's got the higher noise sound out of anything, but I said it's not pleasant to listen to. And it's the same thing with cameras. They might have the highest spec, but hey, the megapixel, but does it take a better picture? Or and as I said, it depends what you want. So,
well, yeah, and the other thing is, like, at a certain point, you start running into issues like maybe the resolving power of the lenses you're likely to use with it aren't actually going to give you much more out of that increased resolution, or maybe you're getting added noise because you're cramming in more pixels next to each other, and that ends up kind of canceling out the benefit you would have gotten from a increased resolution too.
So Sony had they also released the A7s III. Is it
Yes.
Is that the new one? That's the video one. That has the lower. See, that's why a lot of people won't go for that, because it's got the lower pixel count, but it's got the better video quality on it. But what's the megapixels on that one?
So that one's 12 megapixels. I believe it's basically 4K. It's basically intended for probably 4K video or 4K low light shooting.
But sorry, you go.
And yeah, this was the one that when the A7 III came out, when the A7R Mark III came out, for a long time people were asking, where's the A7S Mark III? We want our low light camera, because a lot of people like the A7S Mark II.
And that really did a great job, in the low light. I saw a lot of the videos on that, and they're really good quality. But it's still, I think that probably because when they say 12 in this day and age, why I've only got 12? But it's you don't need as much for that. There's horses for courses, but that's why the A7R Mark III, and that probably sold it, because, like, I know I'd probably say, yeah, I want a good still as well as the video. So that does a great video as well, but not as low light. But I thought I'd put up with that, because then I've got the best of both worlds. Whereas the low light one, yes, that's fine, but it hasn't got the resolution if you just wanted to do the stills. But even then, in most cases, it will still take more than enough quality that most people would probably want out of it anyway.
Yeah, and I guess like you said, horses for courses. It depends on what you're doing. If you're taking a lot of indoor stuff, say you were taking pictures a lot at conferences and stuff like that, where it might be dark indoor lighting, you might want a low light camera over the higher resolution, because that might just tend to give you more usable photos per shoot than having a higher resolution shot in the first place.
And the Sony A7s Mark III, as I said, just looked at the new one. I hope I'm looking at the right one, but it looks like it's got a flip out screen. It's because that's something everybody's been wanting for ages on that one. So not just that little down screen.
Yeah, especially for because the low light cameras like this tend to be used quite a bit for video. That fully articulating screen that flips out is a little more essential, I would say. The whole the previous generation had the tilt screen, which little dubious on the utility as far as video goes. I mean, I guess the idea is you can stand upright and then you're looking down at the camera and the screen's pointing up at you, but that's about the only use case where the tilt really buys you anything.
One of the things I find with all those ones with tilt, the fully that you can turn it round and put the screen back, so when your camera's there, the LCD screen's protected by the camera. I think that's the biggest thing I like with it, that you're not scratching it when you're just trying to take a normal picture, whereas a lot of the other ones, you're sticking your nose on your screen and all that if you don't want to use it.
That's a good point. Yeah, both scratches and nose smudges, because like if you're using the viewfinder, unless you don't have a nose, like you've lost your nose in the war or something, then you're probably going to be bumping up, because I don't have my nose doesn't stick out that much. I have a relatively flat nose, but I'm still always getting a nose smudge on the screen of my cameras when I'm taking pictures.
There'll be a medical procedure to remove there'll be a plastic surgeon advertising photographer's nose, which is done flat onto the face.
Maybe Maybe you've got the Tycho Brahe. You've just got a prosthetic metal nose that you just take off when
You
you.
can take off. That's right. It all flips up.
Yeah.
Flips up, and then you push it down when you. See, we come up with all these inventions for photographers. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, I don't know if I mentioned this specifically, but yeah, part of the reason that with the stock video going back from the conversation before, we decided for us at Relate, we decided going with Storyblocks just because they had quite a lot of because like I was saying earlier, they used to have that the member library stuff that you would have to pay extra for, but now they've just included all of their stuff in the subscription, which is kind of what people wanted in the first place. So
and
now
I think that's exactly why they're probably becoming popular again. Because I never had any trouble with them. It was always a good quality what I got. I thought it was a great value, but then it started going up. But now there's so many others out there. I think that's what they want to get people back again.
Yeah.
So what was that again for the full? Did you have audio as well as video? You said
so for everything that Storyblocks offers, it's $349 per year. That's U.S. prices. It'll vary by country. Or if you just need video, then it's $199 per year. So it's definitely, compared to a lot of the other services out there, it's they're positioning themselves as kind of the value proposition, and they have a pretty extensive library. They have things like templates too, like they have After Effects templates and Photoshop templates.
Yes, they have quite some good After Effects templates as well on that. So
yeah,
because it's good to have that, so you don't have to go to the trouble, because some of them are quite complex that you have to do it. Anybody who's ever looked at After Effects, if you're not used to it, it can be quite daunting. Whereas even just the fact sometimes just replacing their content with yours can be quite awkward if you're not used to it. So it's good to have somebody who's done the hard work for you.
Yeah, and Rick and I were like going through their music offerings, because they've definitely updated their. It would have been audio blocks before, but their music selection, like they have more artists and stuff like that. And even the older stuff, we were noticing it. They may have remastered it, because like it sounds a lot of their stuff before when we unsubscribed was sounding kind of dated already. But now it's, the audio quality is a bit better. A lot of the stuff sounds a bit fuller and richer in the audio quality. We were actually noticing it seems like there might be some crossover between artists from because what we'd been using until now was mainly Artlist, and that's Jeff uses Artlist too. But it seems like there may be some crossover with artists. They still don't quite have as much selection as Artlist does music-wise, but they're getting pretty good.
One thing I like with Artlist, though, if you're an influencer or anything like that you can put on there, you can put your link onto your things. I've gone fuzzy again. You can put a link to on there, and each time if somebody clicks on that link, they'll get 10% off 3 months extra subscription on the Artlist, and then but if you sign up from the link I get 3 months extra on mine. You get 3 months extra, but if you get 10 people to do that, they give you a free lifetime subscription. So
really,
so once if you can get 10 people to join up for the thing, but you just have to put an affiliate link on your thing, you can do that. And if you push that, each time somebody does it, you get 3 months extra on yours, and you said that they'll get 3 months on theirs. But once you get 10, and that's the way they get it, because if they've got 10 people on there, it's quite a lot of money for them, so they give it to you for nothing. And then if you'd probably still be putting on the link and people joining up. So I don't know what you get after, if you're getting anything after it. But once you've got the 10, you'd still push it, because you don't want them to go down. You want other people to do it, because nobody else joins up. You can get a lifetime, but it's no good lifetime if the site's not there anymore. But as I said, the thing is I like with Artlist, and probably now Audio Blocks or whatever it's called, like video.
Storyblocks, I guess they're calling it all Storyblocks.
But that, as said, the Artlist made it a bit different. The type of music that they started putting out, I think, has changed a lot of other ones, because it's proper music. the other ones were sort of like, it just wanted the same music, like elevator music, a lot of it. Whereas it's not now, because people just don't want that anymore. They've always had plenty of that elevator music, and
yeah, I think you're right. I think Artlist has kind of changed the industry a bit on the stock music. Like we're seeing more of the other services starting to try to get artists that'll make music that are more like, basically like real music that you would normally listen to.
Well, that's what I like with the Artlist. Quite often I'd just stick on a list when I was doing some work and have a listen, because some of it was quite nice to listen to. It's all different, and so many good ones on there. I thought I've never heard that before, but it was just so good to listen to. And as I said, you don't know any of the artists most of the time, and it's just different to listen to. And it can, when you sit there, inspire you to go out to film something, because you think, I know that could do well for this. And that's what I used to spend a lot of the time doing. But you can download them, and they give you licenses, and a lot of these things. Once you've done that, you've got them forever. It's not, you're not just limited to the time that you're subscribed to it. So once you've got it, you can download it. You've got it for all the time. So I still worry whether I'm getting the right. I've got the rights to it, even though they've got a license. Every now and then, no matter, even from Storyblocks, you still get pinged on YouTube. Said I paid for that. I'm on this, but
you know the scam that people sometimes run with music, right? It's that what they'll do is they'll make a song that samples like some stock music or something like that, and then they like copyright that or whatever. And publish it on iTunes or some they'll publish it on some site, and then they'll find your video, which has the part of the stock music, but is also the same part of the stock music that they sampled in their song, and they copyright claim your video. So that's it's technically legal what they're doing, but it's very slimy, and it's not. It shouldn't really be legal.
And the thing is, you can't get away from it no matter what you do. If you start whistling, somebody will say, "Oh no, that's the same whistle that I've got a copyright against." You just can't do anything.
Well, and I'm not sure if you know about this, but so if someone copyright claims your video, you can dispute it. However, do you know who reviews the dispute?
No, who?
The copyright holder. So if they claim your video, then they're the one reviewing the dispute. So of course they'll just say, no, I don't care about your dispute. Well, this is on YouTube, by the way.
But that's what I still get annoyed. I do the right thing, and you still get pinged, and that's really annoys you sometimes. But I quite tend to put, on my, if you do put music by so and so, where you got it from, rather than just leave it there, because at least if because if there's nothing on it, but they think you're fair game. But it just annoys me when you still get pinged when you've done the right thing. And there's a lot of people, and then I think, okay, I got pinged for doing that one, and I've got the rights to it. Then the next video is somebody's uploaded somebody's proper video, a proper movie or something like that. And I thought, no pings on that. How did they get?
Somehow, right?
A little 10-year-old boy's channel's got all these new movies or all the. And I thought, how come I get pinged for just? And like, we did a show. Remember, I think once we had a show when we had the person on there who was interviewing was selling something. He showed a picture of his advert for his company that was making, it was on our show, and we got pinged because we were showing copyrighted material that he was showing for that he was producing to sell his stuff. And I thought, it's just mad anyway. So, but that's what, as I said, I don't think I get, because mine's not monetized. So my YouTube thing, so I don't do it because I thought there's no point monetizing. I don't do it enough to do that. But that's when you'd stop getting pinged, because it was, well, you're not making anything out of it, so I can't. There's no point me putting a dispute against it, I think. So
yeah. Hey, I'm hearing myself doubled back. Are you hearing me twice?
No, I'm not. No, sir. No.
Okay.
No. Huh. Anyway, that makes it hard for you to talk when you do that. So.
Well, I hope that's not coming through in the recording. It only started doing that sort of just now. So
anyway, well, I think we're nearly at our time.
Yeah.
We've gone over. Started before 8. We tend to go over, don't we? Yeah. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say for the stock stuff, Storyblocks and Artgrid, both pretty competitive services at this point. So, if you're interested in signing up for something like that, I would just take a search through some of their stuff and see which collection fits you better on the video or the audio.
Because a lot of them, you still got plenty. You can go to their sites and view what they've got and listen to what they've got. You don't need to subscribe. You just have some in the middle of the video. There'll be just a Video Blocks logo throughout the video, so you can see, and then through the audio, there'll be every now and then, something that says it's audio blocks in there, but still gives. But Artlist, I don't think it puts anything in when you listen. You can listen to things on there.
I think you're right. Yeah,
it gives you access to all their libraries to see what they've got. But you just, we've got some, of course, you can't download them and do all things like that. But definitely, they're not hiding what they've got. There's plenty of ways to view all their content.
Yeah. Anyways, hopefully that helped you if you're looking into stock video or music options, and hopefully you found our discussion of cameras and photography interesting. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Tech Down Over.
Bye for
everyone.
now.